So at this stage I can see that most of the people who post comments on my channel have no trouble understanding the basic operation of the head-up display. In particular, this HUD horizon line, which is the zero pitch reference line. It is the position that is horizontal from the eyes, and therefore we can use it as an indication of the pitch attitude of the aircraft and also the flight path of the aircraft. The flight path is indicated by this velocity vector, and the pitch attitude of the aircraft is indicated by this waterline, which is also called the bore sight. As you can see here, the aircraft is in level flight at 43,000 feet, and that means the velocity vector is in line with the HUD horizon line because the aircraft is flying level. If the velocity vector is above the zero pitch line, the aircraft is climbing. If it is below, the aircraft is descending. And as we have seen in previous videos, the position of this HUD horizon line, which is horizontal from the eyes, in relation to the external scene, is not affected by the pitch attitude of the aircraft. We can pitch the aircraft up and we can pitch the aircraft down, and the position of this horizontal indication from the eyes with respect to the horizon will not change. The only thing that will change this relationship is the altitude of the aircraft, because what we are seeing here is horizon drop due to the height of the aircraft. Now this is one of the main problems that flat earthers are still having with the head-up display, and I can see that it is really only the flat earthers who are still struggling to understand how this instrument works. So let's take a look at it once again. So in level flight, the velocity vector is in line with the HUD horizon line. This waterline mark or bore sight is slightly above horizontal, and that indicates the aircraft has a slight nose up attitude. Now that is not uncommon in level flight because the aircraft requires a positive angle of attack on the wing to generate lift, and part of that is achieved by having a very slight nose up attitude. Now this is one of the straws that the flat earthers have been clutching to, believing that it is this nose up attitude that is producing the gap between the HUD horizon line and the Earth horizon, and that is certainly not the case. Now recently I had a flat earther visit my channel and make a request to put this waterline bore sight mark on the HUD horizon line to see if it changes the relationship between the HUD horizon line and the real Earth horizon. And I had the opportunity to do that the other night. Here we can see the altitude is 43,000 feet, but we have already set the altitude pre-selector to 10,000 feet. So this was just before we commenced our descent. And I started the descent slightly early so that I could do a very shallow descent and put this waterline mark precisely on the HUD horizon line. So as I lower the nose of the aircraft to begin the descent, you will see this waterline mark or bore sight dropping down towards horizontal. Correspondingly, the velocity vector will drop below, indicating that the aircraft is descending. Now normally I would just set around 2,000 feet per minute descent, which would place the waterline mark below horizontal. However, for the purpose of this demonstration, I commenced the descent very slowly and carefully so that we could see this waterline mark exactly in line with horizontal. At that point, the aircraft is not pitched up or down. It is completely horizontal, and therefore the flat earthers cannot argue that the nose attitude of the aircraft is causing this HUD horizon line to be above the horizon. Now as I move forward in the video, you will see this waterline mark drop, you will see the velocity vector drop, you will see the altitude begin reducing, and you will see that there is no change in the spacing at this point between the horizon and the HUD horizon line, because that spacing is only determined by altitude and not the attitude of the aircraft. So here we go. And you'll see I'm very carefully lowering the nose of the aircraft. As the waterline mark approaches horizontal, the velocity vector is now below horizontal, meaning the aircraft is descending. And there we can see. So now we have the aircraft at 0 degrees of pitch, and we still have exactly the same gap between horizontal, which is eye level, and the Earth's horizon. So I'll play the original footage now so that you can watch it in real time, and then I'll play this clip, which was taken a short time later with the aircraft in a more normal attitude for descent. You can see this waterline is now below horizontal, and the velocity vector is further below horizontal, indicating a steeper angle of descent. What I also do is tilt the camera up and down and also move it physically up and down within the eye box so that we can still see the symbology of the HUD. But what this is doing is confirming that the tilt angle of the phone or the camera and the position of the camera looking through the HUD does not affect the relationship of the HUD horizon line to the visible horizon. This spacing is caused by altitude and the curvature of the Earth, not by any camera position or angle. And you can see that very clearly in this clip. Yep, we'll take that. So as you just watched very clearly, the pitch attitude of the aircraft, the tilt angle of the camera, or the position of the camera have no effect on this visible horizon drop. It is caused by the Earth's curvature and the altitude of the aircraft. So I'm sorry, flat earthers, but you've just had another straw ripped from your fingers. So this is actually the second time I have made this observation in the past week. The first time was the previous day, a day after the flat earther made his request. And here we can see the aircraft on descent into an island in Indonesia. The aircraft waterline or bore sight is in line with the HUD horizon line, and we can see down here the vertical speed is 900 feet per minute. That is a rate that is lower than the normal descent rate, because we only needed to lower the nose slightly to achieve this zero pitch attitude on the aircraft. Since I was going to be busy for a few days without the chance to make a video, I sent this footage to my good friend Where's Wally, and he was kind enough to include it in his own video. I totally agree, mate. How good is Wally? So I think most people who watch these videos possess the critical thinking skills to understand that we are looking at clouds here, and therefore we are not seeing the ground horizon. Never overestimate a flat earther. Obviously, if there is no cloud, we're going to see a sharp horizon, and we're going to see a significant drop between horizontal in the aircraft horizon line and the natural Earth horizon. When we have cloud obscuring that horizon, we're not going to see the drop, and because the cloud is at a much higher altitude and closer to the altitude of the aircraft, any drop that we're going to notice is going to be commensurately less. So as I said, never overestimate a flat earther, because some of them noticed that the drop visible in this video is less than the drop in this video, but they failed to realize that this is purely because of the high altitude cloud. So either they cannot tell the difference between cloud and the Earth, or they don't understand that the geometry of high altitude clouds will, of course, result in a lesser visible drop. Now, if we had clouds at a lower altitude, we may get more drop, but the only time you're going to see the full horizon drop is when we have no clouds, just like that. So I think at this stage most of us understand that your average flat earther struggles with basic mathematics. They struggle to understand the geometry of an equatorial mount, how the polar alignment and the single axis of rotation simply cannot work on a flat Earth. But now we also know that there are flat earthers out there who don't know the difference between clouds and the ground itself. So for their benefit, I'm going to play some footage of a beautiful thunderstorm we flew past up near the equator just the other day. Cloud recognition for flat earthers. Emma, come and look at the moon. Touch the moon. Touch the globe. What a good girl. Now walk around here so we can see your spacesuit. That looks terrific.